Hello friends, welcome back for Bitcoin Technical Analysis. I'm Rocky Outcrop. We're all Rocky Outcrop Ticians together here on the channel. Thanks very much for joining me if this is your first video, and welcome back if you're a subscriber. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Let's get on with the charts. Thanks very much for joining me again here. So we've got the price right now above my head there, 6,338, and our lows and highs today have been around 5,850 and 6,450 or so as a sort of general area that we're looking at. So how does that all line up with what we've been looking at recently? Let's just make this full screen so we can see it a bit better. And you can see we discussed yesterday in the video this channel and whether or not this channel would be kind of real. Now, of course, we know that or have any sort of, if it could be used in a way to sort of measure the price action. And we know that we also spoke about how this channel is obviously subjective, where you draw it in at. For instance, it fits, it's not perfect there by any means, but it fits roughly in amongst that on the daily chart there. If we go down to the 4-hour chart, you can see we've got these sort of aberrations, so it depends on where you want to draw it in at. And that, but the concept of it was roughly kind of speaking to say that we could, we're also going to have to look to see our previous lows and whether or not we're sitting in a lower low, having had this generally, roughly speaking, upward trend here. Now, if this was just to turn out to be some sort of big old bear flag, then you're looking for it to come down and at some point be breaking past your previous lows and then go on down towards previous other targets. Now, what do we have here in the meantime is that we've not done that yet, and that actually this kind of did come in at around about where our target kind of was to the lower side for our first profit taking level. We've spoken about it for the last few days. Thanks very much again to George for that question, which I answered in the video before yesterday, and thanks very much to Peter, who reminded me that I was kind of thinking about an Adam and Eve pattern on the 4-hour chart as well. So yeah, anyway, thanks to you guys, and yes, so we're kind of back where we were when George asked this question, which was broken 6,200, where could we be going next, essentially? And the 5,800 region was the second kind of profit taking target from that point. Of course, you had 6,000 or so itself in around where the bottom of that channel was at the time, and then looking down here, 5,800 areas being sort of like fake out territory. And then, of course, then if things had sort of kind of become real, then you're looking down to this 5,443. What's happened in the meantime since is actually we've just kind of, what we've come up here, we've made this high, come down below it, and then gone up above again this Magnolia line, which is the 236 Fibonacci there on that particular retracement. And then we've come up here to where we've had this other profit taking targets. Now, I'm not going to need to break down all the different reasons for these lines being in here in this particular video, because the subscribers already know what it is, and this is a different sort of point that I'm making anyway, but you can see those were profit taking lines in there, right? And then we came back down here towards where we had a previous low at, and then we've come up again. Now, you could be looking at this and thinking that this is the beginnings of a head and shoulders pattern, which would be a reversal pattern. And if we see an increase in volume on a drop back down below where the neckline on this thing could be, then absolutely you could be seeing that in play. Now, if we go over to the 4-hour chart here and just pick up where, as I was trying to kind of get at yesterday, I was talking about this head and shoulders concept, and not dissimilar. Peter then commented down below and said, maybe you're thinking about an Adam and Eve pattern there, and absolutely, this would be Adam here and this would be Eve here. And it depends then where you want to draw in your sort of confirmation line, so to speak, for the neckline on this thing. And of course, you could be looking down to here as the neckline, where we came down as low as in around the 5,850 area as a sort of pivot point looking forward over the next wee while. And if this were to go up and form some sort of right shoulder or have an Adam Eve Adam pattern, which is which that could end up to be, or we get some sort of Eve Adam here, there's lots of different ways. When in Bilkowski's book, he's got like, I don't know, freaking 10 chapters going on where he's variations of this whole concept, and it all kind of boils down to the same sort of thing. You know, you're looking at you're looking at where you would say that you've got the pivot in the market at, and then how far could you go past that pivot, and there'd be various different ways of calculating that, of course. But if you were to be looking at it from a sort of pattern perspective, then you're talking like, say this is the neckline down here, and you go from there, then you're looking down as far as where we have a sort of 100% retrace off of this Fibonacci sequence that's drawn in there. So like, you know, you've got that area, but on the way you'd have these different profit taking targets, which would be incredibly significant ones, of course, as well in terms of pivot points, and that is what we'd be looking at. For instance, the 236 Fibonacci retracement there on that particular Fibonacci, which is around about the 5,500 level. And incidentally, you know, if this was the confirmation line here, at the 236, you know, and we've sort of tested it here, but maybe we go up and make another attempt and then come back down, and if that turns out to be the crucial area, and that was to be as far as the move went afterwards, then you'd be looking at 5,500 again. But I do feel that it's more sort of similar to probably to something like that is what you'd be looking at in terms of the thinking about this thing. In which case, maybe we should readjust this channel that we've got here to be more to fit in the previous price action a bit more, and that can just kind of operate as a reminder for us in terms of the in terms of the sort of confirmation line, so to speak, of that head and Adam and Eve sort of pattern. So if we just stick it in there roughly, and we kind of keep our eye out for this area in the coming days, you know, if you're looking to sort of manage your risk, then that's sensible. And then if you're looking to take profit, all of these lines up above that we've spoken about recently, and if you want to take profit to the downside, all those lines that we spoke about recently there too. So that kind of really sums up everything that we have to look at in terms of the to one side and the other. So what's left really that could maybe sway our decision one way or the other in terms of the price action that's happened elsewhere in the Bitcoin industry. And you can look over here to, well, the GBTC chart, for instance, and you can see that we're below the 236 just currently on this here at $7.03. That's the current price there. This is GBTC, which is a Grayscale Bitcoin Trust thing, right? And it's another way of looking at the Bitcoin price. It's an analog, you could say. Let's just go with that. And here we've got a 236 Fibonacci retracement drawn in here, and the price is currently below it. You know, so what could we be looking at in terms of the next two levels, for instance, on this thing? And that would be $6.50 and $6. And that would fill this gap that we had in here. So we were aware of this for the last wee while. There's a video with that in the title or something. So you know, this opens up this as being a sort of a possibility that this Fibonacci retracement we've drawn in here from the lows to the highs. It doesn't seem to be perfect as I look at it just now. You know, but it's whatever. So it's on, you know, it's on potentially. So we have to see how everything operates in and around where we are currently for this particular price. And the underlying asset in this is obviously Bitcoin, and this chart's delayed as well that I'm looking at. But whatever. The point being that if we're going down here, maybe we could be looking at a gap fill over there, and the prices for that with the premium that you're looking at, if for instance it's 7 at the minute there, and the price here is 6.3. So you know, if the prices went down to $6, then you could be looking at 5,000 between, you know, the 5,500, 5,200 levels, where we have these other lines drawn in anyway from different Fibonacci retracements and whatnot, and we know about them from the past and historical resistance and support that we've had. So you know, that's what we're looking at. And then to sort of then sort of sum up then, I suppose, there's no currently there's not any divergence or anything to be aware of. Really, we're up towards the test in this upper zone here on the stochastics, which is, you know, coming in at around about the same sort of a time as what we've been testing around the bearish control zone on the RSI. So that's all good to see in a way, if we get positive follow through, and that all happens in around these levels that we've been talking about in terms of the prices and stuff like that as well. It's got the volume dropping off. Let's look down towards the 4 24-hour chart now, I feel like then, of course, now that we've got these lows in here, that we could start saying, oh, we've had this little downtrend, and yeah, there's no divergence between the lows on that, and yeah, whatever. But this is like we've been saying for quite a while now. We're consolidating, and another sort of different perspective you've got is the Ethereum thing. Actually, yeah, let's look at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, then I'll sign off. Thanks very much for tuning in, by the way. Thanks very much for liking, subscribing, all that jazz. And let's see where we are here. Well, we were kind of asking the question, can this thing turn around or not? I mean, we're in no man's land, like we said as well yesterday, between a couple of different areas. You've got a 618 retracement here, which is just above us. We kind of came quite close enough. It's close enough to that in a sense, again, and then found our resistance on that. And we have, let's just zoom right out. The 24-hour chart would be better for this. We have so a couple of different points of note here in amongst these two previous sort of phases in the market, and we also could draw in a tiny little Fibonacci here and look at where we've been coming to, probably below the 236 currently. Let's just do that for the crack again. So yeah, of course, what profit taking targets we had so far in this downward move. We come all the way down to the 50% area there and touched it, kissed it. Let's see how it responds. You know, we've got a few different areas where you can see the price turning around at the 382, 50, 618 being typical ones. Like we've got here turning around at the 618 where this green line is here. You know, I could extend it over, but you can see where the crosshair is that it all kind of lines up. Close enough is close enough anyhow, and we've not made it up to the 236 yet. So we've got to, you know, what direction are we going? We have to see if this trend turns around that we've currently got. In terms of this has been a downward trend, then we don't really have any divergence on the go here, really, apart from potentially here towards the end over here on the RSI. Let's just expand it out and see if that's the case. No, it doesn't actually look like it. So we'll just have to wait and see how this pans out, if it does turn around or not, and the areas to be looking for depending on what sort of time frame you're trading on. If you're a really small one, like that's that last Fibonacci, and then, you know, if you're looking towards the bigger sort of picture, then really we're looking between sort of 2 and 2.2 really. So there's that sort of 10% move, 10% area here to decide which way round it wants to go between these two Fibonacci points really. So thanks very much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Oh, share this video with a friend if you think you've got one that would like it. Why not? Hey, so it's good to increase our R naught number or whatever that it was, the R number. You know that thing from Contagion, the movie? I don't know. Anyway, our infection rate. Let's increase it. Thanks very much. Catch you in the next video.